Connecting. Yay!
Hello!
Hi, finally.
Yay!
Sorry about that. My husband's computer I was using just was glitching. It didn't want us to Zoom as well. Too many.
That's all right. We do it again. That's why I said, like, hang on for Instagram, because there's always something to work through with all this tech. But we'll get there. What I've done, I've actually got my laptop just there, and it's recording. So at least I'll have an audio, and we can. It doesn't matter. It just means we can do this again.
Great. Always. Yeah.
So thank you for having me on your Instagram. I'm just going to adjust this.
It was your idea, and this is my first time doing Insta Live. And when you first said it, I was like, really? But
I know I'm really good at the moment. I'm really good at getting people to do it, but it's purely because I want to do it, but not necessarily on my own yet. I really want to get to the point where I can press the button and go, "Hi everyone," blah blah blah. And for some reason, it's like, but yeah, we're here. So this emoji.
And happy birthday!
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I keep forgetting. I'm not really big into birthdays, but maybe that's, I don't know. Maybe that I didn't have them growing up because I was Jehovah's Witness, so they're just like, I don't know, and I don't even do age anymore.
Yeah, I don't really do age, but I'm big on birthdays. I think because I did grow up having them. Like I had them made into the biggest deal growing up, and so then I had that expectation that I would always cry on my birthday if it didn't match the expectation. And then recently I've gotten to a place where I create my own birthday. It's not dependent on anyone else, which is the key, I think, for an amazing birthday celebration.
Yeah, definitely. I'm creating of everything. Well, I've never spoke to you before properly, so this is like a first. We've been messaging for years, probably, I'm sure.
Yeah, because I followed your secret bump Instagram.
Yeah.
You're pregnant with Rain, and I think I was newly pregnant with Sage when you were just giving birth to Rain, because Sage is 3 in 3 months or something. So yeah, I've been following your journey, and it's been so great and so in alignment with everything I've kind of gone through. And I've seen you go through all the stages of being really into chakras and crystals and all of that stuff, and then moving into, you know, just a different level of consciousness and kind of letting go of all the stuff that is easy to hold on to at the beginning, and just being more limitless and expansive with consciousness. So that's cool. Hello everyone. Hi.
Yeah. Hi. I'm not seeing any comments. Is there any comments? Oh
no.
Say hi if you want to. I forget because I'm at the bottom. I'm usually at the top of mine. So how it works and it's good to hopefully be able to record this. So I mean, we could probably talk till the cows come home. But what do you think at the moment? So I was thinking about this to try and sort of streamline. No doubt we'll go all over the shop and talk about everything. But all the things you mentioned on your story just now, conscious motherhood. You said about false light. That's an interesting one. I'd love to talk about.
False masters.
Oh, false masters. Yeah. What do you think is the most important topic for right now? You know, like with everything going on, because I've avoided a lot. I'll be really honest. I talk about the stuff that's controversial, and I've only just started over the last few months talking about this. I wouldn't before. I would have been too scared for conflict, too scared someone not liking me or not agreeing, which is why I love stories so much, because it's a way that we're able to share things. And actually, if someone's brave enough to, and I like that, you know, if someone's brave enough to question it or to, you know, to have that, they've got to message you direct if you've got those ones. So for me, it's like a safe thing that I'm able to like do my story.
And it's private,
unless it's private. But at the same time, I don't mind that. I don't mind if someone calls me out. They have done before on things they've messaged. And of course, when we do that in a respectful way, that's the future, because we're not all going to agree on everything. I think this is the biggest thing for humans at the moment, is to learn to allow and accept someone else's opinion, which I know for me it's challenging, and I think for everybody it's like, oh, but I need to be right, but they need to agree with me. But it has been easier over the last few months to start sharing stuff on my Facebook. I know you're not on Facebook, and that is quite scary because it can be a real funny place. But so far, because of my own energy, I feel, because of my energy, and I'm not trying to convince anyone or prove anything, it's been good. You know, like, I think people have gone, but more people have come. So yeah, what do you think is, let's talk about the things. What do you think? False masters is intriguing to me. What do you mean by that?
So false masters, I got that term from reading this amazing book by Lise Bourbeau called Listen to Your Body, Your Best Friend on Earth. And I actually really highly recommend that book. She's done a lot of really wonderful books on the metaphysics of illness. And actually, since I've learned about German medicine, I've moved away from her terminology around why we get sick, because it's not as precise as the spiritual reasons, but it just doesn't go into alignment with German new medicine reasons, which are so specific. So anyway, in this book, she talks about, that's just a river next door, false masters being so many different things. And I knew that, like, people see the government to be their false master. That's an easy one. Something that you allow to have authority over the way you run your life, and you give your control to them or it can be a person, it can be your parents or your partner, or it can be anything. And what I found really interesting was looking into the more spiritual side of things, using astrology as your false master, using, clairvoyance and mediums, using things that we'd think would be better masters, but they're not, because anytime we surrender our own inner knowing and our own discernment to create our own life, then we're forfeiting, what could be anything in our future. And the interesting thing about psychics is when they tune in, they are picking up on your vibration in that very moment. And I do believe in, psychicness. And I know I'm psychic. I know everyone has the possibility to be psychic. However, it's the truth in that very, very moment about what your vibration is. And if you shift your vibration in the next moment, the truth will change. And you can have a completely different trajectory. And the problem is, people who go to see psychics or mediums and they have a reading done, or even astrology, they then hook onto what they've been told and maintain that to be their reality. And it often will manifest as their reality. Whereas if you're conscious of that and you know that that is the truth in that moment, and you can actually use that as a tool to change your vibration and shift out of what you're doing, really, you're limitless.
Yeah, I mean, it's got some incredible positives. If someone says something and you really like that and you want that in your reality, it helps your belief system to manifest that. But the danger is, and I know people that have gone and they've questioned someone's relationship, or they've said something and it's like, oh yeah, completely, like, you don't give your power away to that. But it comes in line with my favorite word at the moment, which is it's not my word of the year, which is embodiment, but sovereignty. Is completely coming back to sovereignty. Because when you look at up the diction, last year it was Laurie Ladd that started mentioning about sovereignty, and the only time I've heard about this word was when I was a Jehovah's Witness. So I was brought up worshipping God. So for 36 years I worshipped a God that's like, big bad daddy God in the sky, and I prayed and I believed it all, and he was sovereign. So that God is the sovereign Lord Almighty, or whatever, that's what it is in religion. So when Laurie started talking, I think it was Laurie, someone started talking about us being sovereign, I looked up, and it basically means to govern. Yeah. So to govern, or to lead, or to set a government around. And so really what that means for ourselves being sovereign beings is we self-lead. We literally lead from our heart, well, basically from our heart, because that's where our higher, that's connected to our soul. So it's that higher guidance that we get to decide exactly how we live. And it's so true, because I know for you, well, for many of us, we're becoming more sovereign the more we say no to certain things that have always been done. So,
Yes.
for instance, the school system, I actually, no, that's not for me. I'm going to choose to my own education. Oh, the birthing system, oh, that's not for me. I'm going to choose to do this my way and research and
Yeah.
work on my mindset, blah, blah, blah. Oh, healthcare system, great in
Mhm.
emergencies. Thank you, universe, that we have this in emergencies. But rushing to the doctor every single time something's wrong, oh, I'm going to choose. And that is how many of us are. It doesn't make them wrong necessarily. It's just like, no, I'm going to listen to myself
Yeah.
and I'm going to follow that.
Yeah.
But I think you're spot on with the whole crystal. I think that, and this could be quite triggery for some, I think, as well, because I've got cards. I rarely use cards. In fact, if I'm honest, I'll use them sometimes because they make a nice picture on a story,
Yeah.
or, you know, but I used to kind of rely on them for a bit of guidance or intuition. And crystals are fun. Crystals are incredible as well. And I spoke to a channeler recently, which I had some lovely information of. Probably nothing that I couldn't have accessed myself. Like you say, we've all got this access, and that's what we're using them in an empowering way, rather than clinging on to them as your master. I see what you mean now, but for us,
Yeah.
literally believing other people. We're creators. We get to choose.
And even with, so it's interesting because Mercury is about to go into retrograde. And, you know, everyone knows that when Mercury goes into retrograde, you don't sign contracts, you're careful with technology. Like there's all this narrative around Mercury being in retrograde. And it can actually be quite fear-inducing. And then I feel like we're just recreating that reality by all going, oh no, Mercury's in retrograde.
Yeah,
And
I've never bought into it. I've never had any problems. I'm like, it doesn't even bother me that. I mean, I buy into other stuff. I used to buy into
yeah,
a lot, but not anymore.
well, there
I'm just
have been
like,
times where I'm like, what is going on? Why is so many things going wrong with the car and technology and whatnot? And then I will check, is Mercury in retrograde? And it is. But we are meant to be signing. So we're staying in like this Airbnb. It's like a hotel, you know, overlooking South London. It's perfect for this stay. And we're 2 weeks off of signing on buying a house in the forest, which is like 400-year-old house with amazing views
wow.
of all the southeast of Kent, all of Kent, and it's just stunning, honestly.
That's
But
right, because you're going to where my ex was brought up.
no, no, okay, so
Oh, is that?
we moved there, and then I hated it and left. So much has happened, yeah. I've literally been all over. This is our second Airbnb that we've been in the past 2 weeks. But anyway, we're going to be signing the contract to buy our house during Mercury being in retrograde.
All right.
I first saw that, I was like, ooh, okay, interesting. But I'm not going to feed into that. And a friend mentioned, she said, everything is in divine timing. And it's just so true. The second I step out of resistance with whatever the flow of my life is, then everything goes okay. And even when it doesn't, by chance, which just leads me on to this thing called the Surrender Experiment. I don't know if you've read that book by Michael Singer. And I just feel like everything that's happened over the past month has been a bit like his surrender experiment, where you just say yes basically to everything that life puts into your path with no resistance, and you allow yourself to be carried in the flow of synchronicity. And it's led us here, with so many obstacles coming up. And I did stories on it yesterday, just saying, like, has anyone else had a difficult 2021 so far, just with obstacle after obstacle? And what my realization was, which brings us to kind of this conversation of what's happening right now, is that as each obstacle came up, it was like this dark portal that I had to go through that then took me into the next up level. And so difficult things would happen, and it was just one thing after another. And then the most amazing resolution would happen with no effort. And we were like, taken to the next thing, and then another thing would happen, and then taken to the next thing. And it really reminds me of what's going on in the world right now. It's like I was shown this bifurcation of realities, this like really, you know, three-dimensional, difficult, hardship, struggle reality. And then, you know, I had the choice either to settle there and get stuck and fall into myself, or just hold myself. And then I was taken to this other reality, which is the fifth dimension, and love and freedom and ease and abundance. And I did a stories poll to ask if other people are experiencing this, and I think it was like 70% of people are experiencing this right now. And yeah, it just kind of struck me as this collective thing we're going through. And the second I got the awareness around what was happening, I was like, oh, I don't have to do this anymore. I can choose now just to go into ease and not have to go through the dark portal, the death, to get to the birth and the light.
Yeah, we are massively up leveling as individually. Of course, that's what creates the collective up leveling. What I've never really spoke about this properly, but it's only popped into my mind. But I came on this journey through The Secret, the film The Secret.
Yeah.
So I kind of watched that, changed my life, to be fair. Now looking back, I kind of went obsessed with the law of attraction and everything, and I love it still. I love it's absolutely valid. Even though I kind of ran off with the material, I was very intent on the material world rather than now consciousness and more like, expansion. Forget all that. Not forget it because it's available, but it was so important to me because I was trying to prove myself and all the things. But I think about that film and how it's come through Hollywood as well. It's almost like, like there's there's truths, but not quite everything we need to. Not quite everything. And so many of us, and I'm speaking for myself mainly, might be for others as well, but this whole manifesting thing is great because yes, okay, we're creators, we learned how to manifest, but then we're trying in such a controlling way to manage every single thing that happens. We're really trying to control our lives. And I almost feel now what the next phase, or the real phase, maybe it's not real because everything's valid, like everything's led us to here. But for me, I think, that's the old way. I feel now it is about literally surrendering, which in the non-resistance, when we lower the walls and barriers, we just allow life to flow. We just flow, but we flow at the highest level, so it can be effortless.
Yeah.
And the surrender experience is such a brilliant example of this, actually, because he just let life lead him and trust. I mean, it ended, really well. It's still amazing for him, his whole journey, isn't it? But that's what happened. I think it was last summer that I suddenly realized that I was pushing, I was striving, and even though I was talking about it, not pushing and striving, I still kept. There was worry and there was anxiety around where I needed to be and what I needed to do and why wasn't I writing my book and now I'm just like, do you know what? If I'm supposed to write a book, it will happen.
It will come.
It will.
Yeah. 100.
And it might not. It might not come because the reasons why I wanted it a couple of years ago, I'm not going to lie, I shared this last week. I wanted to be the person that was an author and blah. I was focused on that person that the ego. Yeah. There's nothing wrong with it either, but now I'm like, I'm so not interested in that.
But that's another false master then. So in this book, she goes through all the lists, and power and recognition is 100% a false master. And so even, if I'm being completely straight up, even doing a live, like my first thing was, oh, but what if it's, what if I'm not coming across as I want to be, or, basically just power and recognition stuff, which is all shadow work, which I know thanks to you, I found the book Existential Kink, and I've been doing, shadow work, and it's really helped my brother as well. Like it was the key, the missing link for him.
Wow, good.
He's completely just expanded from doing it.
Wow, I want to hear more about that. Maybe I don't know if we've got time, but carry on. Sorry, I want to know the name of this book that you're on about again. It's on about this.
Yeah, so I'll just repeat. It's Lise Bourbeau, and it's you. Listen to your body, your best friend on earth. And she goes through like all the different levels: physical, emotional, mental, spiritual, societal, and how to basically unpack, how to cut cords, it's really powerful. And it's really unassuming as well, and no one really knows about it, which I find are the best gem books. But anyway, what was I just saying? We were talking about existential kink.
Oh, I see. Yeah. Do you want to go there then? Do you want to talk about that?
No. Life is Good. Just asked, what is the book?
I've written that. Just so I
Okay.
can write it there.
Okay, so wait, what were you just saying? Sorry, I've got completely.
Just before existential kinks, I'd like to talk about that. But we were saying about, because that has been big for me, the recognition thing. So I'm interested in
Yes.
that. False. So it's a false master. You said that it's a false master. Even doing this live, worrying about it, because actually thinking about it, though, the people that are, I don't want to use the word successful, but being successful with their message are people that just go like, they'll just talk.
Yeah.
You know, like
Yeah.
Feel Good or, you know, Laurie
Yeah.
Ladd or whatever. They're not even, they're focused on that service and that
Exactly.
information rather than judging, oh, am I right, am I wrong? Because
Yeah.
that's what I've been doing. What if I
Yeah.
mislead people? What if
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
get it wrong? It's not what I look like so much, it is my like, what if I'm wrong?
Yeah.
Because I've been,
Okay.
I'm basing my, so I was brainwashed in the past and I
Mm.
believed this thing that wasn't true. What if I'm now doing the same? Because my truth changes all the time. I'm up and down, up and down.
Same. And by the way, this beautiful, beautiful quote by Lisa Nichols that Sri Namaste Moore, who's one of my teachers in femininity and the divine coupling, she kind of has taken this quote and done a whole course around it. And it's about the vulnerable woman. And it's, I have nothing to hide. I have nothing to defend. I have nothing to prove. And I have nothing to protect, maybe. And it's
Wow.
just so powerful because when we really embody that, she says, if you're not trying to prove anything, you're not trying to hide, protect, or defend anything, then no one can take anything away from you.
No.
Your truth can change by the second, and that's okay because
Mm.
you're not pushing anything on anyone. And that's what my husband said to me when you messaged me saying, do you want to go live? I was like, you know, a bit caught off guard, you know, what, in half an hour? And my husband was like, well, if you're coming from a place of just two mothers talking to each other and being of service to even one person, then what's wrong with that? That's all it's about. It's not about ego. It's not about anything other than that.
No. No,
And
that, and when you come from that place, it's so, there's no stopping, because it does impact. It does nothing but impact. You know, the
yeah,
people that are going to sit and criticize, which is always a reflection of us anyway. You know, like, as I think about that, where, you know, where do I criticize other people? I never do. If I'm on a live, I'll come off it if I don't like it.
yeah, exactly.
But it's just, yeah, I think that's but you could have said no. I mean, there wouldn't have been anything wrong with you saying no
No,
either. No, and saying yes. But I think
I
that's
don't like
exactly what
saying no
Michael,
though.
you are.
If I don't like saying no to things out of, you know, nervousness or fear. Like if
No,
I have
because
that feeling,
you get it afterwards, aren't you? You're like, oh, I wish I'd done that. So it's like a
yeah, no,
longing.
I
No.
never have that experience because I always say yes because yeah, that's just something about my personality.
Good.
I'm a Leo, rising Leo, so even if it does make me feel nervous, I do like kind of presenting things to the world. And
Good.
I love what you said actually a while ago about was it you're a sharer? You love sharing things?
Yeah.
That the word you used? And that was that I read that and I was like, that is me. I love learning things and just researching and absorbing so many different things. So my kids are banging next door, I don't know what they're doing.
Oh,
And then
honey.
sharing it with the world, that is where I get my joy and what lights me up. And that is really the crux of what being an influencer is.
Yeah. Annoying
It's
word.
about influencing people for the good just by sharing your truth and your life and
Oh, I
things
love
that
that.
work for you.
I it's almost like it can be my shadow as well, because it's almost like this deep craving to share. Even so, this is where, you know, we used to make fun of people who shared their food on Instagram. It used to be years ago, it was the first joke in there. And actually, I love people that share their food, because often it either inspires me to think, oh, what's that? Or I'm going to try that. I'm going to buy that. I just think everybody sharing their best practice for them is it's been so powerful. And I think that's what's worked. Like, you think about even my birth and my secret bump, you know, I did it primarily for me because it was a offload of, I could anonymously for 5 months being able to type what I wanted, was just such a release. But
Yeah.
on the way, I can't even, makes me cry when I think about the impact that just that little journey of sharing, which is why now I put a lot of pressure on my friends. And why I like doing things like this, like, come on, let's go and do live together, because the more of us that do this, this is not only shining our light. Now, it doesn't matter if we don't do it either, but it is sharing and it is inspiring others to step into that courage and be who we are and accept who we are. So there's a bit of everything, isn't there? It just happens to be it's easier online. It doesn't mean it's not, you know, doing it in person or whatever, you know, whatever it might be. But what else was I going to say just then? I can't remember. We'll come back.
Should we talk about shadow work a bit?
Yeah, I was going to do a live with Anna actually today. Would you mind keeping an eye on the time? I haven't got the time.
Yeah,
I've got acupuncture, so I have to go at 2:30.
Well, it's 1:40.
Oh, right. Oh, okay.
So I'm just doing a call, Baba. My son. So shadow work, existential kink. Now, I haven't made my way through it so much as my brother has, but my brother's 25. He's done a lot of plant medicine work with me, and as have I, not with me, but we kind of done it side by side and really come from very closed consciousnesses when we were teenagers to, you know, many, many levels ahead from where we were. And he just had this block where all this work he was doing, there was still this kind of dark grip around him that he was not able to break free from. And then I got him the Existential Kink book for Christmas. And funny, with our family all opening presents, and I'm like, here's your Christmas present. But sorry, my phone just died. I don't know if it are you there?
Yeah, sorry.
Okay, cool. So he started reading the book, and it has completely unlocked this part of him that was very much in the darkness and afraid of darkness whilst being in there. And he's able to be around friends who are maybe more dark, and, you know, is this 25, they take drugs, they do stuff that is generally more dark. And he's just like a different person from it. So
wow,
this book has some major codes. Yeah.
Well, it's helped me. I mean, I haven't read it all either, and you know, I've just got, and I heard Amazon just now. I've just ordered another book, and I didn't mean to, because what I keep doing at the moment, I'm not reading a lot, but I'm still tend to be consuming buying books. I want to get into this Gene Key. That's what I really want. But the Existential Kink, Anna, who's my sex coach, Anna Robertson, she has read it all, and it's completely, I mean, it's been huge for her in her life and her clients as well, because it is like a missing piece, and it's so much deeper than normal shadow work. So for me, shadow work at the moment, I do it every day. It's not a thing I do, it's just a thing that I come up and I get triggered by somebody. I see something, someone says something, whatever, I get triggered, and then that's an instant opportunity for me to do shadow work there and then. And it's just loving myself. It's basically loving myself anyway, on such a radical level. But that book it does go into more darker topics. And actually it's led to some really interesting conversations, even with Anna, around so some of the stuff that's, you know, the stuff that's rife in the world at the moment, like sex trafficking and paedophilia, all that stuff. I can see very clearly why we have that in our reality, because so much of it's been suppressed.
Yeah.
Like, we've made it dark. We've put so much shame around certain things from when we were children that we've made it dark. And I mean, that's probably another conversation. But one thing that Anna's helped me, one tool that can help anybody, was, so say for instance, me and my body, which is an ongoing love relationship. In fact, I was going to say love hate, but I certainly don't hate it now, which is new, because I used to hate it. But having this mirror has really helped me, because ultimately I've got to love it for me to be able to reshape it. You know, that's how I'm going to do it. But say for instance that there's something about you that you don't like, or basically means that on an unconscious level, whatever. So even the fact that I've got the issue with my hands at the moment, which is why I'm going for acupuncture. Never had this before. Something's come out of my hands. My body's talking to me. On an unconscious level, I chose this. And that book, basically, what I love about it is there's no messing. It is for people who really want to be empowered. We create our reality, and every single experience that we come across, we're creating. So, for instance, my body, the way it is at the moment, I created this. My hands, the dis-ease that's on my hands at the moment, I created this. My relationship, you know, all of the things, and it takes not courage so much, but it's so empowering to be able to say, actually, yeah, I'm creating this. I create this. So when you realize that obviously it's not a conscious thing, like I wouldn't obviously want to have eczema on my hands at the moment, or I don't want this, you know, excess flesh on my belly. But
so wait, sorry, Mishelle, did you say you have eczema on your hands?
Yes.
So eczema is a separation conflict resolution. So the fact that it's on your hands, when did you first get it?
Weirdly or not, because it's mainly on my fingers, which I've looked in my book. It's mainly the fear of not being able to be successful on your own without support. Which is just, it's my only issue. It's my only issue. It's so obvious, the fingers thing.
But putting that down, let's just blank slate it. Okay. So when did it start? With no preconceived thing?
When I first, just before I went to my mum's to look after my nan. So in December, where it was quite an intense period of family time of all of us. And I do think I was holding a lot of, because my family are not like on the same path as me, apart from my sister, who is. But I think it's began very, 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 very slightly when I first started doing this sex work with my sex coach. So I started giving my more self-pleasure, more, which I think is quite significant.
So, because in German New Medicine, it's the resolution of a separation conflict. So usually something or someone that you were separated from, and something that you would have used your hands, like had touch on your hands. So I'm thinking like either holding your nan's hands or self-pleasure, it could be using your hands. But once you find what the conflict was that created that, but it's very, in German New Medicine, it's so specific because it's the point in your brain where that registered whatever the conflict or shock was, and it was a separation conflict because it's skin. So for example, my almost 1-year-old, he just got she was separated from herself. Yeah, you could have been separated from yourself, and maybe she was separated. So in terms of self-pleasure, you were separated from yourself and then you started self-pleasuring yourself. That could have then been the resolution of a separation conflict, is what Life is Good is saying, maybe, because you said it started around the time that you started self-pleasuring yourself.
It wasn't that I wasn't before, but this, because I've always sort of done stuff like that, but with working with a sex and orgasm coach, it is like, it's work that I've been intending to start for years, you know, like it's a big deal. So I know
it's from a different
so I think it's come from releasing a lot of shame, doing this whilst having no shame. And I do think it's that more than going to my parents. I think that was just a timing thing, because it was starting before that. It was before. I can only pin it down to just starting working with my body more, you know, with my sexual side more, which has been such a big deal in my life. So I think you're right there. I can't see any comments, sorry, but
oh, you can't see comments. There have been a few, and I just want to read them out. So Life is Good said, and this was when you were talking about the darkness in the world, that we made it dark from the unconscious. She said, what do you mean we made it dark? I'm confused because it's so dark. What other choice did we have? Do you want to answer what you meant by that?
Yeah. What part was that? What did I say about being dark? A reflection of us. I'll
Yeah,
create a
with all
collective.
the like sex trafficking and pedophilia
Mm.
happening and
Oh, I
what.
see just now with that, when I
Yeah,
mentioned that fleeting comment
yeah,
about, yeah. Um, because when you make something wrong, and this is where it can be triggery, can really be triggery, but in the fifth dimension, there's no right or wrong, there's no judgment. So, which can be really hard for us on certain subjects.
yeah.
And how do I explain this?
Can I help? What
Oh
might
gosh, yeah,
be,
of course you can. Yeah.
and please correct me if you're wrong, but when doing this shadow work, like specifically in existential kink, it's about maybe unconscious desires that come up when, how can it not be wrong? She said, I struggle with no right and wrong and good and bad for sure. Well, that's just duality that we're so
Yeah.
programmed with. But
Yeah.
in existential kink, it's about how we grow up with this sense of right and wrong and good and bad and dark and light and good and evil, and by doing that we're actually giving this massive power to these more like negative, difficult feelings. And what she recommends doing, Carolyn Elliott, in existential kink is when you have something that comes up that is darker, and your shadow and part of your unconscious, anything that you feel any resistance to or shame around or guilt about feeling, and it's perfectly natural to have thoughts and feelings that
Yeah.
are not all, you know, light and good.
No.
She wants you to really get pleasure out of that, and in doing that, in fully owning and deriving like almost orgasmic pleasure
Turn on.
out of
Yeah.
the dark thought that you're having, you will dissolve it and take all its power away and integrate and therefore become whole. Because
Mm-hmm.
anytime we have this sense of separation and duality within ourselves, we aren't whole and we're not able to be fully integrated. So as uncomfortable as it is to, you know, fully own within yourself the darkest parts of
Mm.
your
We
psyche.
all had dark thoughts, and
Yeah,
often we've got to remember as well, our thoughts are not always ours. Our thoughts, when someone thinks a thought, is energy, and it never gets destroyed. It's always there, and
yeah,
thoughts are gathered via vibration as well, and we can tap into a thought, whether it's, you know, a thought somewhere, and a lot of our thoughts and feelings are not even ours at the moment, which is why an access consciousness tool is to ask, is this mine, you know, straight away. And your body sort of tells you, because often we're picking up on other things. But I think when shadow work is about looking at our own psyche. I have had all sorts of thoughts pop into my head sometimes that have been like horrendous. And I'm like, oh my goodness me, what is going on there? And it can come from nowhere. But when we try and not just deny it, but we're just like, we don't, this is stuff we don't talk about. That's
we
why it's called
repress it.
shadow.
We
That's it.
repress it,
And
and
so
we're
we have,
afraid of it.
mm-hmm,
And
yeah.
I think that kind of ties into why, so Life is Good was asking, how is it that then this, what we're talking about, means that we are part of the problem when it comes to the collective and the issues and the sex trafficking and whatnot. And it's just this culture of repression that we are a part of, and not doing the work on ourselves then is reinforcing on the collective this, you know, repression and good and bad. And then people are going to act out. People are not whole, people are not integrated, and they're doing the dark things because they're not owning it and embodying their own wholeness. So
The
I don't
fact
know.
that we're seeing it at the moment and it is so dark is significant. It is a big deal. I mean, it's, I don't want to say it's a good thing, but it is because it means it's literally coming up for us to integrate. And the reason why, and it's really bizarre, because when we go back to the top level of knowing that, I don't know if you've read Busting Loose from the Money Game, you probably have done,
I
or
haven't, no.
it's so good. It's like we're in a holographic game. Like there is only one of us here. We're here projecting our reality in front of us. So everybody's an actor in our play outside of our energy field. It's everyone's actors. I'm creating you. I'm
Yeah.
creating the version of you that I'm now
Yes.
seeing.
Yes.
And I'm creating my children. It's a bit mind-blowing, that book. I had to keep putting it down because I let the information kind of settle, but it's extremely...
Will you type it in the comments, the
Yeah,
title?
sure. I will do after. It's about money,
Yeah.
but it's not about money, because
Okay.
no money book is ever really about money. But
No.
because money's just a game, and it's allowed me to allow so much money in my life, but so much more money, I should say. But so in that sense, if you think about, we're in a like a computer game, like a simulation, for example, and we're creating it all. And so I'm waking up. I'm remembering who I am. I'm starting to awaken and love myself more. And this has involved me doing that inner child work, you know, and loving, going back to that 4-year-old and giving her what she needed. And so collective, and this might not make sense to some, it makes sense to me, but on a collective level now, I'm seeing that in my external reality. I'm seeing this be reflected in that there are children that are being freed. So it's just like my own inner child is being freed. There are children being freed. This is all, it's very profound when you think of it like that, I know, but it is all, it's been going on for years as well, in the external.
Yeah.
It's been going on for years. So it's very,
But for
good.
More than years, for
thousands of years.
Yeah.
Thousands and the fact that it's starting, more and more people are starting to hear about it, is the perfect chance for us to do the shadow work on these triggers. So look at what comes up with us. And I don't know, I want to just share this briefly, just an example of how courageous it is to do this work. But when my dad died November last year, it wasn't last year, it was the year before now, I keep saying last year, but he died November just before 2020. And just before he died, and this is a bit but he told me that when he was 14, he was raped by a Jehovah's Witness elder. So because that Jehovah's Witnesses cover over paedophilia, because I've sued them and blah blah blah. I can talk about it now like it's because I've dealt with so much of it, so I don't need to be blasé, but it's part of been part of life.
That feeling.
But when my dad, so this was back in 2019, when my dad told me that, I couldn't hear it, like I couldn't handle it, and so I spiritually bypassed him, because I just I was texting and saying, right, because he was trying to heal himself. He had like really bad piles. I'm going to say it here because there's not many people here. Like to the point where he was like crying. He would be crying my mum would say, Mishelle, he's crying so much, but I could see that he was trying to heal himself, where that manifestation of the trauma was there. I'm sorry.
And I'll just quickly say that in German New Medicine, hemorrhoids are all about identity and coming into resolution with what your identity is, moving out of what you thought it was and into something else.
Wow.
So that, if he was coming to terms with what had happened to him, that would make sense.
Well, he'd never told anyone. That's the thing. Right. So I told my mum. My mum couldn't hear it, but he told me because we kind of got. He read sort of similar type of books. He's always been into this stuff. He's known about. He told me things when I was early 20s about things that are going on now, and I'm like, oh, Dad, you were right, you know. Anyway, the point, what I wanted to say though, really, the point was I couldn't cope with it. I just couldn't hear it. So I was like, oh, just be positive. I didn't say that, but I was basically saying to him, focus on the body, parts of your body that's well, and oh, well, you know, like really just unhelpful.
Yeah,
like,
you did the best you could.
Yeah, I did. And I had to forgive myself, because it was only earlier last year. I was with my shamanic friend having a coffee. And suddenly I said something in the conversation, and we both looked at each other, because I was experiencing his symptoms, crying really bad. And I realized that because I couldn't help him at that time, I had taken on those symptoms, and she knows it. We did this thing, and it's all good. I sorted it myself. Anyway, the point of me saying this is that when this is all coming up now, a lot of people are not going to be able to handle it. A lot of people, just like I couldn't hear my dad, it was like I'd rather deny it. I'd rather just try and cover it over with positive, try and be positive, Dad, rather than he just needed someone to probably listen and to cry and get out the emotions that were in
Hold
his
space.
and he didn't have anyone. He wouldn't have gone to anyone. It's all good. It's all perfect. There's no issues now. But I think that's what's going to happen as well with these, the things that we're learning about the sex trafficking. Those of us that are able to see it, not necessarily dwell on it, but see it and go, wow, whew, and feel the feelings that come up in our bodies, are actually doing a lot of work for the collective.
Yeah.
Because it's
Heavy
us
work.
in sorry, you carry on. I've been talking for ages.
No. I was just saying, yeah, heavy work. It's very heavy work, but you can't unsee things once you've seen them and have been exposed to certain things that are happening in the world. And on that topic of being shown kind of the darkest points of our humanity, I actually learned about all that stuff when I was freshly postpartum with my second son, and I just felt like my whole world was collapsing, learning about the dark stuff happening in the world. And it was at the beginning of the first lockdown, just a year ago, almost. And it was like what you were saying about not dwelling in it, and that's not helpful actually, because not going down to that vibration is going to create more of that vibration. But it was a grieving process for sure, and it was really important that I allowed myself to grieve and see, I mean, all the corruption that was happening in the world that really was coming to light at that point with government and all sorts. But now, from the place that I am in, where I have the awareness about what's happening, but I'm not sitting in it and dwelling in it, I realize that it's really down to me in my own world, and just like it's down to you in your own world, to create the most beautiful world our hearts could ever imagine. And that's all we can do.
That is our job.
Totally.
That is our job. So the beautiful life, which is what I call my podcast, I haven't been on it for a while, but I keep coming back to this. I'm like, right, okay, I know all that exists in my reality, that is a creation of mine, and fighting it is just a waste of energy. My biggest form of rebellion is not only loving myself, absolutely loving the hell out of myself, but creating a life of health, not based on the codependent system that, oh, doctor, please fix me. Nothing wrong with that either, but just let's look at prevention. Let's look at keeping my body balanced, knowing how to keep my energy fresh and balanced and clear it, or whatever, all the things that we're kind of naturally learning anyway. My wealth as well, knowing that it's okay to have money, it's okay to receive, it's okay, just creating this just creating this beautiful life that is the purpose. That's why we came, and everything else is a byproduct of that. It will affect our inner world, affects our outer world. But the shadow work, I think, is a big missing piece, especially in the law of attraction communities. Because I'm a big fan of Abraham Hicks. As you know, I trained and I spent a lot of time studying their material. Lately, I've had a big wobble with everything. I've been questioning everything, but I still come back to that. I'm still coming back to so much of that because I keep getting led back to the same thing. And the thing that excites me the most is that. So I've got to listen. To that. But I remember searching on YouTube under Abraham to see if they said anything about shadow work. I think I messaged you with this. And the only video I could find was, no, do the light work. And it's kind of, we've got to remember that Abraham, whoever Abraham is higher, like they're kind of they're not here in this human experience. So often I do think shadow work is a big missing piece, which is literally just loving those parts of ourselves that we've denied. And a good book to read about it for starters, and it might answer your question actually to the lady that said about that the reflection, is The Dark Side of the Light Chasers by Debbie Ford, because in there it says anything that triggers us. So it might be racism, it might be pedophilia, it might be I don't know, these things that we consider the worst things, which we do. It's about owning like because we're in a hologram, every single human has capabilities to do these things and be these things, depending on their trajectory, depending on their path and their belief system in their life. And once you can own that within yourself, it's not saying that we are it or anything to worry about, but it's dissolving the trigger, it's dissolving the emotional charge that we have against those things. So I tell you, I hope I've got time to tell you the story. I'm not sure if I'm allowed, but I'm going to say anyway. My mum works for the Samaritans.
Yeah.
And when you train to be a Samaritan, she's the director of training. When you train, they ask you what would be your nightmare call. They have like what's called a nightmare call. And for my mum, it was talking to a paedophile. So like when she was training, they said, you know, that would be her nightmare call. You know, it would literally, because she had such hatred for that because of what happened growing up and all that. Anyway, she told me this not so long ago, and I was bawling my eyes out. But I'll really try and condense this down. Turns out, a few months into the job, she gets her nightmare call. Can you imagine? This person's phoning you for help.
Yeah.
And telling you this thing, and it's a genuine call. It's not. I'm not going to even go into it, but it's incredible. But my mum, I get goosebumps. I'm so proud of her because what she changed that man's life, and she asked him what happened to you when you were younger, and she said, and she even said to him, look, be careful who you're telling right now. But he wanted help because he didn't understand why he was doing the things he was doing. And by the end of the call, he said to my mum, thank you. Now I understand why I'm like I am. And I'm going to speak it. And I'm just like, I was just crying because more than that, man, what that did for my mum was release her from that prison of hate.
Yes.
It released her from that emotional charge. Doesn't mean she agrees with it or likes it, but that's allowance. It's like she sees that it happens, and there's not a fight or flight. There's not like an emotional charge is the best thing I can explain. And it really helped me as well, just hearing that, because I thought that's all we need to do to actually shift consciousness. It's
recognition. The recognition that hurt people, and it really comes down to that. Just knowing that anyone who's acting, and you know, we're talking about pedophilia, but talking about anything, your child acting out, hurt people. People don't do things unless they are hurt inside, and it's all relative, right? To what the hurt.
But it doesn't, like you say, it doesn't make it right or wrong. No. It doesn't make it right or wrong. It's the key is, you see, and I truly believe we're here to learn compassion. Like you think about the great masters like Jesus or whatever, I'm not religious, but whether you believe or it's compassion. And I think that's probably the hardest. It's such a vibration, that compassion, which is seeing someone and accepting them. It's that unconditional love. No matter who you are being, I love you anyway. And you know, we're not all there, but what the shadow work enables you to do in releasing that emotional charge enables you to just soften with it. And in the softening of it, we're not making it wrong and therefore keeping it alive.
Yeah.
We're neutralizing it.
It's embodying the great mother, the divine mother, you know, for a woman, and then Christ consciousness for a man. It's just this kind of unconditional, infinite, cosmic love that transcends all of the terms and conditions of life, because we all have our own narratives and scripts that, you know, on this, it's literally a movie that we're just playing out, and we all have our own movie, and the lens and filter that we look like. The way that I have my movie is different to how my husband has his movie within our own family context. And just so, life is good as asked. I would love to know how y'all navigate with these government mandates and these masks. I've spent the past 5 years taking masks off figuratively, and now they want us to wear one or be fined in North Carolina. And I'll just start by saying I am exempt from wearing a mask because I choose to be. And if you anyone who chooses to be exempt can be exempt. There is no law saying anything
It might
beyond
be different
that.
in America, you know, because I feel the same. And I've had some messages from people that live in the US as well. It's a lot different than in the UK, because I'm the same in the UK. I get asked and I just say I'm exempt, and there's no issue. I just go
Yeah.
after. And I think while we're on the subject of energy and emotional charge, um, the thinking about that we create our reality. And so on Facebook, for instance, I see somebody who has, I'd love to know your thinking about this, so don't take what I say as gospel, but I'll see someone who is literally being forced to, like, horrendous videos of control and by police and stuff,
Yeah, I've
and people
seen
not like,
stuff.
you know, and I just think, oh, but then when I come back to this, because I feel all the feelings, I'm like, whew, I am safe, I am sovereign. You know, I kind of remind myself that I am safe. This is a movie and I'm watching that on my screen, but it's telling me something. And though everybody's creating their reality, I did a thing on my stories the other day about people are getting censored, and I think it was just something that was in my head, thinking we create our reality. There are some people getting censored and some people not. What's the difference between their own creation? So what is that happening in their energy that makes that happen? And the reason why I'm saying this is because it's worth thinking about, with the masks, what our energy is like, whether we choose to wear one or not. Because there is a way of walking around, even in the US, you know, without a mask and being fully exempt and not having anybody say anything or call you out or anything. That is possible. Where it gets tricky is if I've done it before. The first time I ever didn't wear a mask, I felt like a naughty girl.
Yeah.
So I felt like a naughty girl. I felt like I was doing something wrong. I was looking at people constantly thinking, oh, are they looking at me? Is he going to say something? My heart was pounding. I felt like I was so bad. It's so funny. And so that's an energy charge. That energy would be creating whatever happens next in my reality. Whereas now I can literally walk into a shop like the virus isn't even on this planet. Like it doesn't even, it doesn't, that's just my personal reality, because it doesn't bother me and I can go in. So my energy charge is different. Therefore, no one looks at me. I don't even know if they do, because I'm not even looking for it. So I think what I'm trying to say here is neutralize the emotional charge around mask or no mask. And then
So going off what you're saying, first of all, I just ordered off Amazon a I'm exempt, mask exempt lanyard with a thing that says mask exempt all over it, just because I can't be bothered to have people ask me even when I go into a place. And I've never worn a mask, and I will not wear a mask. It goes against, like, it actually makes me feel sick, which is a great example of how I'm exempt. Doing something that would make me feel out of integrity with myself and sick and like I can't breathe qualifies me as being exempt, and qualifies you if that is your stance. But what I did, because even with wearing the mask exempt thing, I felt like this nervousness or anxiety about going in and how people would perceive me and blah, blah, blah. So I applied the existential kink exercise to it, where I said, okay, well, what am I getting out of that situation? So if I went in, I'd be drawing attention to myself. People would be looking at me. I wouldn't just be blending in with the crowd. People would think I was selfish, that I was going to be, spreading sickness, hurting people, all these things. And I had to actually, in order to dissolve that, I had to start imagining I was getting pleasure out of those things, which sounds really backwards.
That's and sick, like shadow. It sounds dodgy, doesn't it?
Exactly.
Getting turned on by doing that.
Yeah, so this is what the book talks about. In order to dissolve the shadow parts of us, the unconscious, you imagine yourself, because if something's happening, and this is an existential kink, it's because on some level we want it to be there. So it's like the example of people being really afraid of spiders, yet having this fascination of them and like researching them and looking at photos of them the whole time, or watching horror movies when they're really afraid of those things happening. That's part of this like pull that we have about things. So she says in the book that it's because we want it there, some part of us, the unconscious. So I did this thing where I dissolved it, and I then was able to walk into my local cafe with no mask exempt thing, nothing, and really be whole in myself, knowing if someone reacted to me, first of all, I can imagine myself wanting that reaction on some unconscious level. But because I was whole and integrated and that was dissolved, no one looked twice at me.
No.
So it really is, you know, and I heard you say, like, you know, it may sound extreme, but Jesus Christ would not walk into somewhere and care about anything, because he is whole and he is embodied in himself, that anyone could blast anything at him and it wouldn't, he wouldn't flinch.
He wouldn't be like, look, it, because it's so funny, because I'm, especially since I shunned religion since coming out there when I'm in my 20s, and now I do actually find myself thinking, what would Jesus do? Because he's kind of like, whether he was real or not, it doesn't matter. He's like the archetype of that compassionate, but also he did get, you know, I've shared something on my stories earlier. I think he threw tables when there was corruption in the temple. He turned over the tables. He got mad at the corruption in the temple. But yeah, he wouldn't be intent on nitpicking everybody's life. Oh, look at that person spreading disease, because he wouldn't be in fear of that disease in the first place, because he'd know that, hey, when disease happens, it's because it's on an energetic or emotional level first anyway, and he could heal himself anyway. And, you know, like, it's really interesting, isn't it? And it's not to say that we're there yet. So anyone listening, just please take what resonates. You know, this doesn't have to be your truth. It's just,
these are ideals. It's really important to hold ideals in my own vision and work towards things, and I'm by no means perfect at doing it, but
no. And it's funny. I find it funny.
Life is Good said, that was perfect, thanks so much, I've loved this, fascinating, and it all resonates with me. Oh, thank you. It's so nice to have your questions and contribution.
Oh, I'm sorry I can't see the comments. I think the Instagram only gives us an hour as well, so it might.
Okay, I'm not sure. We might be coming up on it. Can I save this
afterwards?
Okay.
What afterwards? It should give you the option to say, I hope so. My phone doesn't, which is why I've done it on yours. But yeah, then hopefully be able to save it.
Okay. Well, hopefully, because it's been such a good we have so much to talk about. We haven't even touched on parenting.
No.
Although this all applies to parenting.
Yeah, it's all applies, and even the fact, and this is why I think this is the future, this collaboration style, whether you've got a business or not, just talking to someone like this and sharing conversation, it's so precious. And that's what I think a lot of even in threes, I know 3s and 4s, people are doing it now on Zoom and just having this conversation. And it's kind of the new not even marketing, it's just like getting yourself out there and having connection with other humans in, you know, in a way, but and hearing other people's versions of their truth, because it helps reinforce what I believe. I can then choose, oh, actually that's just really helped me integrate more of what I believe, or no, actually I like your idea on something, I'm going to shift my truth, you know, I'm going to change. Or it's just expansive, isn't it? And I think we can do this. Well, I'm up for it whenever, because
let's make it a regular thing. We have so much to talk about that we can just keep it rolling. I know,
I'm a bit new. I think back now about the things I've mentioned, and I'm like, oh no, I shared that about my dad, what if this, or I shared this about, but this is the sort of conversation I would have with a close friend, so why would we not have it out in the world, you know? So,
and this is embodying the shadow work and taking the shame and the charge out of kind of more controversial topics and stuff that we wouldn't want to talk about necessarily. But this is how we heal and we move forward, as well, as by just owning it, and it's normal, and everyone is experiencing this. We're not weird or different just for talking about, you know, darker things. And also learning how to hold our energy and how to stand in our power, really, and not be afraid of those things and afraid of anything, because
we're here to integrate fear. So every time, this is what I mean about, this is why shadow work's so powerful. When I can now look at this trafficking and all that kind of stuff, I can see it go on and see evidence of it without me being scared of it. I'm not scared of it. I'm able to look at it, not for long, I can see it, and I think, oh, no thanks, but I'm not scared anymore. And that's the thing with everything. We're here to integrate fear, and that's when you're in your power, and that's when your vibrations raise, when you're not scared of any of the control, manipulation. You see it, you observe it, it's in your reality. But it's like Jesus said, listen to me quoting Jesus, he said to be in the world but not part of the world. So you can see it happening, but it doesn't have to affect your reality. We are powerful, and every time we do get a trigger, it's the perfect opportunity to say, wow, where do I feel unsafe in my own life? Where do I feel not abundant in my own life? Where am I believing in lack? Where do I believe there's not enough? It's a big subject at the moment for me, because once we can realize that everything's actually here, you know, everything is available for us. It's another subject, but it's so exciting, because I know the reason why I'm on the planet is because I see the future. Even though it's kind of now, I can see this new energy, the way that we're going to be living, and it maybe 10 years time. It's not some way in the future. This shift is happening, and it's going to be beyond our wildest dreams. So
it's already happened, though. It's here.
Yeah, well, it has.
And this bifurcation of realities, and what I was talking about earlier about this like going through this dark portal of obstacles that I've been having come up just in this year, and then this like complete up leveling with ease, and that's it. Like, I'm being shown that both things are happening, and it's really which dimension you're living in, or others know it as Terra, Terra, this like amazing earth to live on, this reality of just perfection. And then other people are living in Terra, Terror, and it's really a choice, and it's that simple. And when we're in Terra, everything is possible, and it is all around us. Like, miracles
it's already here.
It is. And I think
look around in your life where if you want love, if you want money, if you want whatever it is you want, look at where you already have it, and then you start to embody that frequency, and that just allows more in. It is that simple. It's not always simple, because we've got old patterns and
of
things.
Course, yeah.
But that, it was only last summer I was like, suddenly I knew. It's not that it was new information. I think something just landed. I just thought, everything is already here right now. I have everything.
And I'll say off of what you just said, so you said I want, and it's moving away from want, just from a conscious language perspective, into choice. I choose this, I choose that, and that is just the affirmation that it's already here, because we've chosen it, and it's here, and it's out of this want lack mentality. Because
when you want something, you're presuming you don't have it already.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's so I think this is how fast that we are expanding, because we're having these conversations, whereas this time, maybe last year or the year before, we were still, you know, it's so much more limited. It's so exciting though. It's so exciting, because even the surrender experiment, it's meant. I've been asked to speak on Monday at this thing, and I really don't want to. But it's like, yes, I've just got to go and do it. What I'm talking about is how we can navigate this time through joy, not struggle. Just like what you've just said, really. And it is a choice.
Yeah.
But people do find it. People find it quite challenging. And one thing I wouldn't mind speaking about with you one day is the spiritual bypassing. Because, you know, like when someone is in the middle of a challenge, and they're, you know, my friend's father's just passed, for instance, or whatever, and, you know, that is a challenge. And I know that I grew through my dad's passing through joy. You know, I really, really, because of my belief system, I was fairly joyful. It sounds weird, doesn't it? But because it is a choice. But I think it's how to help other people when we have this belief system. You know, we're finding life pretty okay on the whole. How to help other people without bypassing, and that's a subject that I need help with, I suppose, and it might be nice to talk about it.
Yeah, I'd love to talk about it. Just quickly, what comes to me is just the power of holding space. It's not about projecting anything onto that person, because their experience is their experience. It's like being a birth keeper. You know, you hold space for whatever it is. You're not trying to, you know, if someone's in labor and roaring and screaming and really going through a death initiation, you're not like, oh, you're okay because the universe is okay, and, or, you know, projecting your joy and whatever onto them, you hold the space. It's a very powerful and shamanic role that we all have within us, and you allow for everything to unfold as it is, and then giving each person the dignity of their own experience is key for me. And I learned that in Al-Anon 10 years ago when I used to go. It's a powerful, powerful tool. Give others the dignity of their own experience. And just like I choose to be given the dignity of my own experience. And there are some times when I'm, you know, I am spiritually bypassing other people in the past, and I'm sure I will again because I'm not perfect, but I have awareness around it. And those people were kind enough to allow me my own experience in that moment. And I then came out of it and was able to hold myself differently. But it's again this unconditional love, acceptance of others, and coming down to our kids. I guess we're gonna keep talking until it cuts off, right? Is that what we
It's
do?
up to you. I don't mind as long as I can get going by 2:30.
Well, actually, we should wrap it up because it's 25 past.
Yeah.
But we have, yeah.
Let's save the parenting talk, and
Yes.
we'll try and get on Zoom anyway, because and do some YouTube videos, because it's good. I'm just, yeah, I've really enjoyed speaking to you. So wise, and
You're
I'm
so wise.
just such a joy. And we get to do this. How fun!
Yeah, that's amazing. So special, and it's your birthday.
Oh yeah.
And Chakra Sharkle said, I accidentally joined this live. It was clearly meant to be. Thank you so much. Nourishing. And Holistic Wellbeing with Alice. Love this so much. Thanks, ladies. So precious. I want more of this. Life is good. That was perfect. Thanks so much. It's been so lovely to have you all on our first live. Well, this isn't your first live, but our first live together and my first live ever. And
you're a natural, Amelia. You're a natural.
Oh, okay. So to end this, do I just press the X button and then it will let me save it, hopefully? Okay. All right. Bye, everyone.
Bye. Thank you for watching.
Bye.